All right, hello again. We're gonna dress our next character. This one is the seated fellow besides Our Lady in the yellow dress. Every time I go into full screen, it makes me go back to the beginning. But here we are. All right. So I'm gonna dress him. It's like casual Friday, so I'm gonna dress him in some more comfortable clothes. So I'm thinking jeans and a sweatshirt. We'll go with green and blue. Um, I think that'd be nice. Um, but in thinking about this kind of clothes, like thinking about a jeans and a sweatshirt, couple distinct things from the other materials we've dealt with. We're dealing with suggesting heavier materials in these two garments. And then also, we're probably thinking about a clothing style that is a little bit looser, has a tendency to be able to move away from the body a little bit more. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be thinking about the body underneath. And quite often, to make these kind of materials understood and convincing in a drawing, you need to very you need to have a lot of consideration of how you suggest or show the body, even if the material has its pulls away from the body itself. So let me give you some suggestions for that. So I alluded to the first thing just a little bit with looser fitting clothing and heavier materials. The materials themselves will the fold will hold itself up and allow the fabric to move or pull away from the surface of the body more. With those kind of folds and heavy material, you see it in this volume drawing from Bridgman's Drawing from Life, but also my drawing here. You see a little bit different characteristics in your folds, and you should draw them slightly differently. If you want to suggest a heavier fabric, instead of drawing your folds with really kind of long arcing strokes that sort of denote the gravitational pull and that sort of slow looping direction down towards the floor. You'll want to think about creating your folds or describing the folds in a way where they appear to have more corners, that because a fold in a heavy fabric can honestly kind of support itself, make it pull away and hold itself up. You can see it sort of on my jean jacket. I know it's a little bit dark, but you can see these folds really kind of pulling away from my arm here. And we'd see the same sort of thing in this sweatshirt, with more angled, pointed folds suggested through the form. I think another thing that I would suggest is, even a lot of times if you're observing someone in a sweatshirt, that whole sweatshirt shape might look like it's not showing anything under the body whatsoever. It can almost look like a big flat planes coming down, but a flat form translated into 2D just gets flatter. So even if you have to invent some folds, it can sometimes be a smart way to explain the pose that you're observing or trying to create. So for this character, I wanted this slightly hunched or flexed forward sort of torso. So as I moved into the suggesting the body through the abdomen at that kind of flexing point below the thorax, I moved into a strategy that engaged more kind of spiral folds across the abdomen, those transverse back and forth folds, to suggest that thick sweatshirt material is kind of compressing like bellows across the abdomen. With a thicker material, you're probably going to end up seeing less of that alternating activity, because those folds really can hold themselves up, and sometimes you'll end up seeing folds that actually move completely across the body on a thicker material like a sweatshirt. Another thing you should really start looking for, kind of in all these poses, but I've made a little bit more of a point here, is the tension point that you get at the armpit. Quite often you're going to see folds sort of radiate up and out at the armpits. As the the weight of the arm sort of compresses the volume of the fabric below it, or stretches and extends it. So we get these series of radiating folds at each armpit. Lots and lots of spiral folds happening in my thicker fabric. I made a special point to use the spiral fold to explain the dynamic arm position, particularly this highly foreshortened forearm. So you can see how it's kind of tense and dense and concentric those spiral folds get over the forearm. But when we see more of that natural length, I let them widen a little bit. And then also the distinct direction of the arcs to connote the position of the arms as they come down from the shoulder in each direction as well. Just another alternative to using directional hatchwork to suggest the volume of the fold is, of course, using a value shift. As you look at the three planes of the fabric, light usually will end up interacting on the same plane, consistent planes consistently. So, you know, for instance, in this case, all of the top planes are my lightest planes, and my descending and ascending planes get to be these more shadowy areas of the fabric. This will be really easy to observe from life once you get to that exercise, if you choose to do it. All right. I've made them a little bit more transparent again, just so we can look at our jeans. Again, approach the kinds of folds and the fold of the jeans should be really similar to the khakis. I think the biggest thing is just to remember that material will pull away from the body form a little bit more. So you'll get a little bit more of a trapezoidal or triangular kind of shape pulling off of that suspension point, central suspension point of the femur as we come down the upper leg. We see the square suspension point of the knee still coming down, and the folds widening as they move towards the ankle. Okay. And I'll fill them in again. On this one, again, I used value. I made my top planes on his jeans feel much lighter, and also indicated that tension fold that's moving across that line of the groin with the pivot point of the pubis.